What's up, everybody? We back once again, Bridging the Gap podcast. We're here with another great episode. We're here with a man of God. And if you know anything about this podcast, anything that we come up with, the direction of this podcast, we always lead with Christ.
Yep.
Born in Brooklyn, New York. Raised in Long Beach, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
now he has the Crosswalk Culture Church in Compton, California. Shout out Compton.
Woo woo.
That's
Shout out
right.
Compton. We have Pastor Anthony Desiree.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
how you
sir.
doing today? How you
Man,
feeling?
I'm blessed, man. Thank you guys for having me, man.
Oh, yeah,
Truly an
always,
honor
man.
to be
Sure.
here, and I'm always looking to bridge the gap. You
Yes,
know what
right.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll get into kind of the we have a lot of conversations about the disconnect when it comes to the youth.
Yeah.
And the youth in the ministry and how we kind of bridge that gap as far as the message.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing I would ask is what do you feel is the barrier or one of the barriers as far as why is there that disconnect?
Well, I think when you look at the barrier in itself, I think people look at faith and religion. They cultivate it as a barrier when it should be like a breakthrough rather than a barrier. And I think when you look at like even Jesus Christ, you know, when he came to kind of break the trends and break the stuff that was already existing, you know, and the thoughts and the patterns that people were living. He tried to bring us the right things and how things should be. And I think a lot of people have tried to go more religious than approachable. I think all pastors, you know, I always kind of built myself on trying to be approachable, available, you know, reachable, you know, and I think that's the thing. I think we get so caught up with trying to attack those that aren't of the faith when we should be sharing with those that are not of the faith, but not to ridicule them, not to bash them, but to share the goodness. And I think that kind of trickles down to the youth. You know what I mean? I think the way you do it, you have to, you got to be ready to break trends and be ready to do that. But if you're so a hardened heart, if the heart is so hardened, you can't even feel the softness of the spirit trying to move. So I think sometimes that's the problem. We're too hard. You know what I'm saying? We talking about hoods and stuff. People is hard in the hood. Well, you be like, why are you trying to be so hard? You know, and I think even in faith, that's what the church is trying to do. Trying to be so spiritually hard that you're not able to reach the youth where they need you to be soft. You know, so
And I think part of it too is the message. You know, me and my mom, we were talking probably like a week or two ago, and one of my points was that I think that we have, you know, certain pastors or ministers and think they try to collaborate the messages sometimes, and it kind of, like for example, a pastor can he can speak on a message and it can relate to the adults, and then let's say like 5 minutes later he'll try to relay a message to the kids, and I think it kind of mix sometimes, and I don't think it's intentional per se, but I just think when that happens a lot, and just from experience for me just growing up being a kid, it kind of like the attention span goes, because now we're talking about something that the kids can't necessarily relate to yet because they might not have experienced it yet.
It goes over their head.
And so I kind of feel like that's, you know, not, I don't want to say a mixed message, but I just feel like sometimes it's misplaced.
But I think the key thing is like, because I mean, the example is Jesus, you know what I'm saying? And so Paul talks about it in the Bible. He said, I became all things to all men. You know, he says that to say like, if I need to be a little hood, I'm gonna be a little hood because I'm gonna try to reach you. If I need to be a little bit more eloquent, I'm gonna be a little bit more eloquent. But Jesus, he was always meeting the need first. You know what I'm saying? So if people need to eat, that's where it's like, you know what, I got these 2 fish, I got these 5 loaves. Let's go ahead and feed these cats real quick. Then we're gonna share about the goodness of the Lord. If someone needed healing, he gonna deal with that body issue first before then teaching them a lesson. The woman at the well, the same thing, dealing with what she's struggling with. And I think that's the gauge of what leadership should do when it comes to their young people. Because there's so many different things, but you're trying to go here before you go here. If you don't go here first, it's gonna be a disconnect. And I think that's where And even in that, there's a scripture that says, and I don't know the address. That's what I always tell my young people. Know the address. Know the address. Know the address of the scripture. But it talks about to serve this present age.
Yeah.
You know, and Jesus says that. You know, I remember my church I grew up in, St. John Missionary Baptist Church, is real big on the wall. It says, serve this present age. And the goal is, it should always be the same message, but you do have to adjust for different people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if you're not serving the present age, you're serving like it's 1955. If it's 2025, we got internet and we got websites and we got this, that, and the other, and your church is not adjusting to it, there's going to be a disconnect. You know what I'm saying? The church is going to not, and then people will say, the devil busy. No, brother, you're just not moving. You're not shifting. You're not You're not reaching the young people or the people, because now you got old people that got technology. We all got phones, right?
Yeah.
And so the goal should be to meet them where they are.
Meet them where they are.
And a problem with society and when it comes to faith is we're always demonizing the world. But the Bible does say we are to be in the world, not of the world.
Yeah.
So that just means we're different. We're different, but we're still here.
Yeah.
And so if you're here, you got to be in it and you got to know what you're dealing with. And so we've just demonized so much. And in leadership, I know for myself, I'm a little different because I'm older. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm a little, I got a little seasoned on me. You know what I'm saying? But I'm 46, you know.
Middle.
I started preaching when I was 15.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in church when the space was, boy, don't come in this pulpit without no jacket on, no suit jacket, no tie. And I grew into a place where now my church, come as you are, T-shirt, Jordans, whatever. You know, the goal is to reach you. You know what I mean? However, some churches, I know when I go share, I'm going to put my suit on because that's the order of their house, you know? But my goal is to reach people where they are. You know what I mean? I come from, my father was on drugs and I endured with that. And so that's where my relationship with the Lord was, knowing in what I was dealing with, what he's able to bring me out of.
Yeah.
And so thank God I had an old school pastor, but he said something I just love, because you just are you. As I started preaching, I wasn't trying to mimic him. I wasn't trying to copy him. Yeah. And in certain parts I was, but he said that I was 16, 17, maybe between that time, but I started at 15. And that stuck with me. Yeah. Because if this man, he was a doctor of theology and he went to Fuller Seminary and all this stuff, he's saying that about me. So that meant it mattered and it meant something. It's just some people don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? Some people don't know how to put down religiosity and being religious. It should be all relational. If we got a relationship, like we have relationship, you know, we fellowship before. That's how we know. That's how I was invited because of relationship. If you don't have a relationship, you're never going to reach nobody. You know what I mean? That's important. Jesus meant to reach them, you know, everybody.
And I think even, you know, being confined to tradition. Being confined to tradition and just knowing that everybody's journey is different. So what might work for you, it might not work for me because we're on different pathways. You know, we're on different pathways. The Bible is a lot of different people who found God through their own journey. There are different journeys. So, you know, just knowing that everybody's journey is going to be different. You know, I'm probably not going to walk the same path you walk. You know, it might take me a minute to get to that point to where I'm able to be in that position, you know, but if we know that, and in the church, we're able to reach, right? Like you said, come as you are. I've heard that across all churches. But how many churches really apply it? You know?
And really know what that means. You know, people, when you say come as you are, people think about the exterior. And it's like, no, it's your heart.
That's true.
And like you said, meet people where they are. And I love how you use the analogy of Jesus meeting the need first. So a lot of times you'll have, and I've seen this like back in the day in churches where you'll have young people will come in and it's like immediately you're going to be on the usher board.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? You get in that choir. You're doing this. And then when that person turns 18, it's like, I'm not doing it anymore. Matter of fact, I'm not going here anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, that when you said meet the need, that's what made me think about that. It's like, did you really tap in to that young person and meet that need? before you try to make them into this super Christian.
Oh yeah, that's so keen because like I mean, at our church we got a young brother, and he's trying to get just transparency. He's just like, I'm trying to stop smoking weed. I'm trying to stop doing this.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, we got you. We're family. I'm checking in with him. I'm calling him.
Yeah.
And it was like, let's just go watch a football game together. We hung out, just some brothers.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, this is just different. Cause like, I usually do this all the time. And but he's trying not to smoke. He's trying not to drink.
Yeah.
And so we hanging out. We doing the same thing. We just being brothers. But that's the thing, meeting the need. Cause sometimes I tell people this all the time, brothers need brothers. Yeah. Jesus had 12. So why you think you got to do it by yourself? You know what I mean? Men, why do we think we don't impart on each other? We don't share our secrets. We don't share things, unless it's like messy or like drama or something. Right. But it's like, no, sisters, the same thing. Sisters should have sisters upholding them. Brothers should have brothers upholding them. And that's where the need is met. And so if you would recognize that that's how we can really help each other, because to me, that's so important that Jesus did that. So that brother, he's really grown spiritually because we did that first. We did that first. And I think if you could reach someone or see what they need first and try your best, you're not going to do it all powerful. The time, but the goal is to try. Jesus met a guy, who had been by the pool. And then the Bible tells a story that he was familiar with the way the tradition of that era is, that he had to wait to the beginning of the week for the people that worked at the temple by the pool to drip him and to put him in the pool so that he could be healed because he was paralyzed. But he had no clue that Jesus was there. And so his mind is so focused on that. So Jesus says, well, what do you want me to do? And then, he's like, well, I don't have nobody to put me in the water. Jesus has the ability to heal you like that. You don't need the water. You don't need nobody else. But the fact is that he met the need. He started talking to him first. Yeah. And so that's the problem. The problem, like you said, the old church, they're diving in too deep and trying to take people to a place of religious service. Yeah. When you just got to have relationship, and build that connection. Yeah. And if you could do that, just talking to them, finding out what they like. That I remember the day when that was the thing. They was putting everybody in the church and you gonna sing in the choir, you gonna usher, you gonna do this. Hold on, they just came for the first time. They ain't never even been to church. Yeah. Can you make sure they saved first?
They don't even know what the usher board is.
Make sure they know Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what we got to get to. We got to get to a place where, people, we hurt people, and broke people continue to break other people. We're dealing in a world where it's hurt and broke people. Yeah. And yet we want to just throw hurt and broke people, into the fire. And no, we need to work on trying to mend those brokenness and mend that hurt. That's the important piece. And I think that's the need. And there's a lot of young people, especially we got young people who are having babies, who are having babies, and some of them don't know. They don't know. And so that's why it's important to the Bible talks about, being slow to speak and quick to hear. We got to listen. Yeah. We got to listen. That's important. Yeah. Yeah. It's important. You got to listen,
And to your point, because I was just thinking, because really the youth, they just want to be seen, they want to be heard before anything. We was having a conversation earlier about just simply going up to the youth and just asking them, how you feeling today? Yeah, you may get a short answer, you may get a laundry list of answers, right? Yeah. And I'll tell you, this is about like a month ago, probably like a month and a half ago. I went to I forgot the name. I'm sorry, I forgot the name, but it's a church in San Bernardino. I went, and they had a youth church as well. And so we were in the the adult church, and they were doing the benediction. And so at the end, they bring the youth church in, and I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at the kids come in, and they were from small to high schoolers to college. When I say it took them about 5 minutes for them to bring all these kids in. It must have been like 100 odd some kids. Wow. And I start crying because I'm like, I know a lot of kids who are lost in the streets and because they're not being heard. And so they go to the streets, they go look to the streets, they go look to these different places for comfort that may not have their best interests. And so I was just like wow. Like, and it kind of reassured my mind that no, like these kids want to listen, they want to be heard, they want to gravitate to God. Yeah. We just got to implement the right messages and right techniques and update our techniques and update our messages to, like you said, to their needs.
No, that's true. I mean, I just saw a number that says like the number is really elevated right now in people purchasing Bibles. You know what I mean? And predominantly it's like, you know, the younger, if they're talking about the younger generation, the millennials and the Generation Zs and all these people, they're out there buying Bibles because everybody wants more. They need that. They need that. They know they need that.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you're the mailman and you ain't bringing no mail, what's the deal? You know what I'm saying? If you the Christian or you're the church and you're not bringing the message, you know what I mean? Because you're bringing your own perspective of what it is. You know what I mean? Listen, the Lord gave us the call when he called us out of our sin and he saved us to deliver the mail. You know? And we are walking around here delivering our own intentions, our own messages, our own this, our own that. That's why for me sometimes like certain connections and fellowships I have, it's based on real love. Because some things it's too religious. It's too religious. And you know, our goal should be to really make an impact. I'd rather make an impact than just say we did a service. You know what I mean? If there's no impact, I mean, if I had one person that was really blessed, I'm okay with that. You know, I went to a men's retreat. It's a bunch of men, a lot of older men. But we had some younger men, and they came. You know, they came with us. A lot of the men are in their 50s, 60s. I'm in my 40s, but a couple of brothers, they were in their 20s, and they was like, man, I've never experienced nothing like this, man. And you know, and some of the brothers just sharing stuff they've been dealing with and sharing what they've been going through. That's how you meet a need. You just do different. It's not always going to be in a church service. Sometimes you got to just sit. It might be on a podcast. It might be something you're listening to, a recording, or it might just be meeting somebody at the coffee shop. You know, you have to make that impact, you know, so that's important. Me and my wife, we just had a marriage counseling session. But this couple, they're 28 and 30. They just got married, but we were just meeting with them and just talking to them. And newsflash, to the old church, they have been shacking. They have been living together. And, you know, they have been, you know, for about 10 years. So they were really struggling with, no, they're in their 30s. Yeah, about 10 years. So they've been together like 10 years off and on. So we were trying to help them navigate to moving from a position of selfishness in a sense and to really looking at it from a God point of view. Because now when you're together, girl, you got to do this because I want you to. Or you got to do this because I want you to, man. But no, now you got to do it because God is in the marriage now. So it's a little different. But getting people to understand that, we had to take them and meet them. We sitting at Starbucks. It ain't no churchy thing. Me and the wife, we sitting there meeting, talking to them. And we real talking. And then we sharing our real talk. Oh, yeah, we done had that argument. We done talk about how, you know, we done almost talked about divorce before. We done talk this, we done talk that. That's where you meet the need. And so these are young people. So now we're imparting them. So if you want to really make an impact, you got to meet them where they are. That's so important. Letting them know, let them know you failed. You know, you know, one of the biggest things when I was growing up, because I came to the Lord very young. My father was on drugs. My mom and dad broke up. Matter of fact, we was Catholic, you know, and then for a while we weren't going to church because my dad got on drugs bad and they broke up. So finally, 3 years passed. My father cleans up. We find out because they weren't together. And then I told my mom I want to see my dad, and so she takes me. She contacted his people, and they came and got me. He took me to the church. That's the church where I accepted my calling, like a couple years later. And so what's crazy, you know, it was always the deacons were there, and I was just like, man, this is so dope. Now my dad, he was struggling because he took me there, but then a few months later he went to jail. And so, but the deacons were there, and as I grew up in the church, then it was like I never saw them have moments of failure and moments of this and moments of that. And so as I grew up now, and now years later, I'm getting with my wife. I'm 20 and I'm trying to plan to get married, and I'm trying to figure this out. And I'm struggling at 22 to how to pay the bills. Maybe I did it too young, but no one was telling me, yeah, man, I went through that. When not, you know, you got to try to do this. You got to try to do it. None of them said nothing. And so that's why where I'm at now in my age now, it's like, I want to make an impact. I want to let them know, listen, it's not easy. Marriage is not easy. Having your own, paying your bills, going to work and trying to be a Christian and be faithful to God. It's not easy. You're going to go through this, but listen, I'm here for you. You know, you got people. And that's the thing. We got to be open. You know, all them deacons and them preachers from back in the day, especially them preachers, because whenever you're a young preacher and they pushing you, they like, they kind of getting jealous of me. I'm like, why you hating on me?
It's a real thing.
I'm 16. I'm 16.
It's a real thing.
You're 30-something. You got a family, you got a house. But that's what it was. And so I grew up like that, and I saw that. So at an early age, I got some tough skin. You know what I'm saying? But I would say, you know, that is so imperative that it showed me. So now as I get older, especially when I see young people and they say God called them, I'm like, listen, man, whatever you need, I'm here for you. Let's talk. I got your back. This, that, and the other. I got some young ministers at my church, and they're ministers in training. And I'm like, whatever I can do to impart in you, you know what I mean? That's the importance. We have to make an impart.
Yeah.
Impartation. It's the catalyst to you really having elevation. When you really let the Lord impart in you. And a lot of us are missing impartation, where we're not imparting in others for others to receive, because God may be using you as a conduit to try to impart something into somebody, but you don't say nothing, and so then there's no change, and then you get kind of frustrated. Now you're gonna have some young people. I got a son, I got a stepson that I've raised, and sometimes he had a hard head. You know what I mean? Some people we gonna come in contact gonna have a hard head. They might not hear everything, but they hear you. They just want to respond in the way they want to respond to it. But the goal is, I'm still every day with my son, I try to reach. Every day with someone else, you got to try to reach. You got to reach. That's the goal. To me, that's why Jesus says, go ye therefore, teach and baptize. There's an action. It's an action, and you have to, it's always go time, so that's what I'm saying. That's always an opportunity for us to go and try to make that impact with people, but you got to do something. You just can't be, I just feel you can't just be, or blah, you gotta be on purpose. Everything is intentionality. If you're not intentional, you're not gonna do nothing. So you're not gonna reach them if you're not being intentional with it. If you're just trying to stick to your old ways and your old guns and how Granny and Mama and Tutu and Nunu and them used to do it. That ain't gonna work, bro. That ain't gonna work.
And you gotta be willing. I love how you said, you guys, the ministry happens outside the church. The four walls of the church.
That's real.
You got to come out of the four walls of the church to meet, especially the youth, to meet their need, to meet them where they are. And I think you got to get inside their mind, listen to their likes and dislikes. You know what I mean? So a lot of times I do think it's the approach that we take with them. You know what I mean? Like you said, we're in a different time now. Everything is digital. Okay, so how can I use this to help bring home the message of Jesus? You know what I mean? How can I connect with them? And this is what they like. Okay, so how can I use this to connect with them in a positive way?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation on a previous podcast, and I made the point of one of the examples was Kirk Franklin, how he cross collabs with hip hop artists and R&B artists, rap artists, and I'm not saying that you should follow everything that the hip hop artists are saying. Obviously, it doesn't coincide with the church. I'm just saying, I was showing an example that he's finding a way to reach the youth through since I can't do it right here, let me go over here where these young people have a following, and so maybe I can gravitate them over here a little more by collaborating with them and showing them, hey, we can work together somehow. Yeah.
So I mean, when it comes to those collabs, sometimes it's a little much, because you have to be careful, because you're dealing with someone, because we as leaders and preachers, and I remember a day when Kirk was he was the youth pastor over at Faithful Central. I remember going there years ago. And it's a tough situation, the collaborations, but we collab in everyday life. So you can't be so against it, but I've served under Pastor Dietrich Haddon, I sung with him and I served with him, and he's very unique and different, reaching in different ways. And, in certain collabs, we would talk about it, and just sometimes people, there is a reach that it can reach, because now you got people that are hearing you that would never hear you. And then that's something he would say. But then there's something is are we supporting what the message? Because I remember a song from somebody.
Like a fine line there.
Now they singing with you and talking about Jesus, but their next album, they talking about that back to freaking dick. It's like, what's going on?
Kind of tread softly.
You got to tread.
So it's a definitely fine line. But I think just in general, not being okay with being different. Like, you know, Kirk Franklin has done some stuff that makes me say, I don't know, Kirk.
Yeah.
But he has done some stuff where I'm like, okay, praise Jesus.
Yeah.
You know. And then there's been some, like, when I was with Dietrich, like, I would love the time we spent because I write music and I write hip hop, reggae, R&B, but it's all gospel.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I'm an aspiring artist too. And being with artists and seeing their perspective, they're creatives, and they're kind of doing the same thing, and it's all Jesus-centric. You know, it's a blessing. But then you hear people that are in the church is like, you trying to sound like the world. You trying to do this. You trying to do that. So that's where you have to really be focused on what you're focused on, what God has called you to.
Yeah.
You know, if God has called you, someone's going to say, all this y'all doing, it's not necessary.
Right.
But what y'all trying to do, y'all trying to make an impact. And so we have to recognize, so if God has called you to be a catalyst or the conduit that could reach a young person, you may be doing stuff that some will frown on.
Yeah.
Now, if it's against the word, I always tell everybody this, what I tell my church all the time, even if it comes out of my mouth, if it don't sound like God, don't look like God, then most likely it ain't God.
Yeah.
All right. But when it sound like God, it sound like peace and edification and uplifting and transformation. And most of the time that's God.
Yeah.
Amen. Because a lot of times people want to put their own self in things. And that's how there's a lot of leadership. There's a lot of churches that are manipulating people because they put themselves in it. I'm like, listen, I ain't going to tell you how much to give. I'm not going to tell you that. That don't sound like God. That don't sound like God to me. But what sound like God to me is you changing and can be different and can be transformed. That's what sound like God.
Yeah.
And so in everything, if it don't look like God, don't sound like God, then most likely it's not God. We got so many prophetic words and prophetic voices nowadays.
Yep.
How about this? How about we just, what Luke 9:23 says, this is our Crosswalk Culture Church scripture of our church, is Luke 9:23, let any man that want to follow me deny themselves, take up their cross and follow them.
Yeah.
That's what it is. If we deny ourselves, then you probably reach that young person a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right.
If you deny yourself, because you'll be like, I'm too old. You know, that just ain't the way. No, bro. Just deny yourself and say, Lord, use me to reach them.
Right.
Lord, use me to speak to them. I've been playing. Matter of fact, this past Sunday, now I'm a singer. You know, when they're playing with me, I can hoop and holler and do all that. But it was Youth Sunday. Sometimes we'll have one of our youth or one of our young adult leaders kind of share. But I just felt led to speak, and so. But I made sure, I said, you know what, I might not hoop and holler today because I just want to reach these young people.
Yeah. You
got to make the effort to reach them. You can't go to the left or to the right. Your focus should be on trying to reach them. And I had all the way to my when she just turned 4. No, she turned 5. Demi, one of my babies in our church, she just turned 5, and I want to make sure she understands what I'm talking about all the way up to now. The ones that's almost 30. You know, I want to make sure everybody is catching it. Then we're going to talk to the adults. But that our goal should be everybody getting a word, because I got to reach them, you know. And even if I've been there where I'm like, in God, because God said, you know, he's so good. And it says, you see, because God has been so good. You got to reach that person you trying to reach. That's the problem. You know, we're too, you know, sometimes what's that old phrase? You're too heavenly good, you're no earthly good. You know, you're too heaven-minded, you're no earthly good. You know, we need to be heaven-minded and earthly good to make an earthly impact. And that's what it's going to take, you know?
Yeah, I think, like you said, you got to be a vessel. Allow yourself to be a vessel. Like, we got to allow God to step in.
Yeah, for real.
We got to allow him to step in. We don't give the opportunity, you know. And just having the word being the base of everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Having the word, not having a hidden agenda.
Right.
Being intentional. Being genuine.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that's the way to go about it. Because like personally, like if I'm in a church and I'm sitting there, like they always tell me like, oh, Minister Desiree preaching today. Okay. But it's because it's the relatability. It's also, I'm not better than you. I'm right there with you, right? I'm right there with you. I may be in the pulpit, right, but I understand and I'm right there with you. When young people see that and feel that, they gravitate towards it. Because now they're not going to be frowned upon. They can come and confess, or you know, just talk and just like, I got this going on. This is what I'm dealing with, and they won't be judged. Right. So that creating that safe space and either being the vessel being intentional, being genuine, having the word as the base of it all.
Yeah. And you're really good at that.
Oh, thank you.
You
Thank
are really, like I said, you're not even you're not the pastor of our young people, but like Malik said, they anticipate you coming. You know what I mean? So and again, we had a guest earlier, and that's what I was sharing with him, how young people want to feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like Malik said, when you're talking, it's not like I'm above you. It's like, hey, we're here together. I'm with you guys. We're in this thing together. And so I think that's a way to bridge that gap. You know what I mean? To get that connection with the youth of the church. Yeah. So I just want to commend you. You're really,
that
really
means the world
good.
to me. I mean, I always look at myself and I say, you know, that old scripture, I'm just a filthy rag, right? You know what I'm saying? Washed by the blood, you know, and I'm trying to get to that white as snow. But the reality is just that I'm, you know, I always say I'm, you know, even at my job, you know, I'm just a regular dude. I can laugh and joke with you, but I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody that came to save everybody, you know? And my goal is to always be, you know, one of my good friends, he's always telling me, say, Aunt, you just different. You just very genuine and authentic.
Yeah.
And I'm just real because I've been there. My father was on drugs, and my mother had a nervous breakdown, and my mother became schizophrenic. And so after my father's drug addiction, it was me and mom's, you know. And so I've been there. I've been there to where me and my wife, I married my wife. She has 2 kids. I came in their lives. They were 4 and 6, and now I got a 30. I know, you know, black don't crack. You know, but now I got my son's 30 and my daughter is 30. My daughter is 32 and 33 now. And I got grandkids. And, you know, years ago, my story was like, you know, I married her. We about to live happily ever after. We're going to have 2 kids. The 2 kids never came. We miscarried multiple times, you know. And so I had to learn to accept it. That almost drew a wedge between me and my wife. You know, so when I'm telling you that you got to be faithful even when things don't go right. You got to be faithful even when things don't pan out how you want them to pan out. I promise you, God is still there and he still has a plan for your life. You know, that's the realness of who I am and what I've been through. And that's why I take every effort of reaching everybody. And if the church can take that same effort, you know, it doesn't puff me up, but that's the way we have to be. Because that's what the Lord has called us to do, is to really reach, continue to reach and focus on that. Stop allowing your experiences to govern you and let God's revelation lead you. You know, your experience is great. That's fine. But like when you're letting the revelation and the Lord lead you and guide you, you're hearing his voice, not your voice of how you're. I love what you said, you know, not having a hidden agenda. The Bible talks about the word have I hid in my heart.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And Joshua talks about it. And then it tells us that if we hide the word in our heart, we can obtain good success. But a lot of people are not just hiding the word in their heart, they're hiding their own agenda in there. And so they have agenda. That's where the problem we come with people that are abusing these young people. They're using them. You got young people that are you know, a part of this, you know, this population that's been mistreated and been abused and certain things. Because it's a lot of people with agendas, you know what I mean? We should not have no agenda. You should have the heart of Christ and allowing Christ to lead you to make an impact. I mean, that's the most important thing I can tell you. Right now, I would just gauge if you're in ministry and you're in leadership and you're seeing maybe the numbers dwindling about the young people at your church, or maybe you have a great number, but you just see that you don't have a good relationship with conversating with them or talking with them or what have you. You need to take yourself out of the equation. You need to take yourself out of the equation.
That's it.
You need to deny yourself and say, Lord, I'm taking up your cross. Direct me, lead me, guide me. You might do some things that you would never thought you were to do, and God is leading you. I mean, that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. You know, to really just taking yourself out of the equation. Because a lot of times I say this in our prayer group. We have prayer every day on Zoom, you know, our church Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. And a lot of times you get in your own way. You get in your own way. God is telling you where to go and lead you and guide you, but you're in your own way. It's time to get up out of your own way. I'm telling you, your youth department may flourish. Maybe let them young leaders lead now. Stop always telling them what to do. Let God lead them.
That's it.
You know what I mean? It may be, you know, because, I mean, everyone, if Moses had a Joshua, but because you are so I don't want to get on nobody's head. Because you so want to be the dictator of the house, God called you to be the shepherd of the house, not the dictator of the house.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
so if you've been, right?
Yeah.
And if you've been so focused on being the dictator of the house, you're not allowing the Joshuas to rise up. Something about the disciples with Jesus, they transform when he ascends to heaven. They become apostles now. They become leaders. They're no longer, the Bible talks about how when Jesus ascended, the Bible says had the disciples, the apostles, they were standing there and they were just watching and gazing and they were stuck. But until they say a man dressed in white, and a lot of translate and say it was an angel of the Lord who appears to them and say, why are you gazing? The Lord, the way he left, he shall return. And boom, instantly they went to the upper room, and they ended up, that's when the spirit of Pentecost ended up moving on them later. The problem is you've been stuck and you have been missing your Pentecost. You've been stuck.
Right.
And so when the Lord is telling you, don't get so lackadaisical focused on what you think or how it should be when the spirit is trying to move and drop something new on you. You know what I mean? We got to move. That's where if you can't go to the upper room if you stuck up here in the basement. You can't.
Yep.
You can't. Basement mentality can never move up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We up here in this penthouse right here where we at now. You can't listen.
On the 21st floor.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about my wife, because my wife do not do elevators this high. She might do the 5th floor. I'm texting, I'm going to the 21st floor in the elevator. How you feel? Listen, when your mind is stuck in the bottom and staying on the lower levels, you'll never make it to the penthouse.
And I can attest to that because I've explained this before. Like 2, 3, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was going through a hard time, just mental wise, and I said like how it was one day I was just like, man, I feel like for the first time ever in my life, my faith is wavering, and it felt so heavy, heavy on my heart. My shoulders felt heavy, everything, and it kind of goes to what you just said about my mind was just stuck, and I was just so dwelling on every mistake I was making along the way to the point where I didn't want to look in the mirror at myself sometimes. I was like, man, and then when you get so stuck in your head, you kind of feel like everybody's looking at you how you looking at yourself. And it was times I walk into the room, walk to the house and see my parents, and they're not even looking at me like that. But because of all the guilt I'm weighing on my shoulders, I feel like they're looking at me like with disappointment. When in reality, they're there for me. And so I felt like I was alone, even though I wasn't alone. And so that's very powerful about what you said about being stuck. Because I felt like I was stuck for so long, and so many things passed me by to where, I had to eventually like pick myself up. Like, hey, and I did start getting back into the word a little bit and start kind of just reading things to try to encourage me. And I say that to say that's a lot of the youth out here today. I think that's a lot of it. And that has to do with us as messengers as well. We're not instilling enough of that faith in them. Like you said, like, tell them you made those mistakes. And so I practice that to a T, to where even when I'm coaching, if one of my kids, they airball a shot, I say, guess what? I've airballed before. Like, I try to implement that in anything.
It's important.
It's very important.
I think just when it comes to us, we have to know, like, even what you just shared, you most of the time you become your biggest critic. You know what I mean? You're your biggest critic. But it's like, why are you so critical about yourself when you got the biggest fan base behind you? The Lord is behind you. That's the biggest cheer section. I don't know if you've been to the Intuit Dome. The Clippers got this whole wall section that's all home-based fans cheering for them. You got a bigger wall with the Lord in your corner cheering for you, a bigger cheering section. And, sometimes we become the biggest critic. No, you need to let that. You got somebody in your corner. You got somebody that's fighting for you. And that's what, with that same mindset, we have to know that it's our responsibility to make them young people realize that, it's too many people, like I said earlier, that's broken and damaged, but I'm telling you, the Lord I serve, he spoke and the blind can see now. The Lord I spoke, he spoke and the deaf could hear.
There you go.
That's right.
So no matter how broken you are, I'm a believer, old school, my God can pick up the pieces, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Pick up the pieces, And I just want every young person to know that, a life with Christ is so different, because nowadays everybody is doing all kinds of things and living all kind of ways. But I'm telling you, if you old school, Old school church, they be just like, just try Jesus, right? But I tell you, man, you try the peace and you try the power that's in the Lord. I'm telling you, jump on a prayer call, jump on a prayer line sometime, come to church sometime, and come experience it. Come in or just call me, talk to me, reach out to any of us. God has something for you. You know, but I would just challenge all those leaders again, just like, get out your way, man, get out the way, and start letting them people lead. That hurts my heart when I see churches still stuck. Like my home church that I came out of, when we finally end up leaving, they got a lot of old ways, and so when I go visit from time to time, I'm like, help them, Lord, because they still stuck. You know what I mean? They're still stuck. Yeah. And they tell me that because I come with our church, and they're like, man, you always just been good with young people. It's just, I'm just relating with people. That's it. You have to relate or reach them.
That's it.
If you don't do that, you'll never see the growth. And that's the thing. That's where people can come from with different walks of life. My church, I was blessed because when we started a church, we predominantly a black church, but I got this family. They know me from fellowships from another church, and they left that church, Spanish family. So they came, and I was just like, that's the heart. We should be trying to reach all kind of people. Everybody, because if newsflash, when you get to heaven, it ain't just gonna be. It's gonna be everybody up there. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, and I think it's gonna be all. And even that, you got people nowadays. I mean, we can go all different directions with this conversation, but we got people that got tattoos everywhere. We got people that are, they got different colored hairs and things you would be like, what is up with that? That don't look right. Yeah. Listen, there's a whole slew of people that love Jesus, and we have to make that impact and get out of our own way, get out of our own biases, and reach them. You know what I mean? People that are living different lifestyles. Listen, the Lord can get them out of that thing. Yeah. But the problem is you too judgmental, and he can't even use you because you judging instead of loving. That's a word right there. You got to be loving instead of judging, man.
Yeah. Yep. I got one last question. Yeah. I've asked so many people this question over the years, but I've never asked somebody that's ahead of God's house. Why do we as humans throw God under the bus so much?
Say it again.
Why do we as humans throw God under the bus so much? What I mean is this. I've seen a lot of instances where somebody will do something, right? Commit a crime, whatever. And they always use that term, God put me up to this, or God allowed me to do, or let's just say negative behavior in general. And we always try to use God as a segue. When I kind of look at it, no, God got you, but he don't got this. He's not supporting this, what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so,
I got you.
If I worded that correctly.
No, I got you. I think the problem is, that's just like when, I had the opportunity to do a funeral, and the boy, he was like about 12. And so he was spending the night in a friend's house. The granny didn't know the kids left out. He got hit by a car. And when I start a funeral, the declaration, especially in that moment, because everybody's sad, everybody's down. And then I did a couple other funerals, 20-year-olds. They got hit by a drunk driver and another one by a buzz driver. They was high and so forth. But when you do those type of things, it's like everybody's questioning because they're ready to question or they're sad. But first of all, as a minister, I would always declare, firstly, I want to let you know that my condolences. However, our love, and we're going to celebrate these individuals' lives. But I want to let you know I don't have the answers. I don't know why. I don't know why God allowed this to happen. I think people need to recognize that God, the free will that we have, that is given to everybody. And so everybody has free will. The people that are evil and the people that are good. And God is not someone on the joystick controlling our movements. You know what I'm saying? This ain't Roblox, Minecraft, Roblox. This ain't that. He's not controlling us. God is allowing us freely to operate and do what we do. The problem with the world of why people blame God so much is because their whole analogy and view is just as if someone's playing PS5 with controllers in their hand and controlling their life, where God gives you the free will. Yes, you can love God, but you can also go out there. I can be that pastor who all of a sudden on the low, I'm out there sleeping around on my wife, right? Because I've been given the free will. It's not God that's controlling me to do it. It's my choice to try to live my best life, rightful and upright in the eyes of God. But the people we live in a generation where that's their view. So when things negative happen, they blame God, they turn from faith. Yeah. That's where a lot of young people, the problem with connecting back to everything is a lot of young people have had people demonize faith. They would say, say for instance, there was an old movie, the man, it's a scary movie, so I ain't trying to tell you to go watch it, but I'm not gonna say the name, but his mama was abusing him, kept making him read scriptures and go in the dark room and keep quoting these scriptures. Man, in the movie, it ended up becoming this crazed lunatic going after people, right? So that's what the movie goes into. The problem is that's the kind of thing, you're punishing people. Faith is a part of punishment. No, faith should be a part of uplifting. Faith should be a part of growing. Faith should be a part of transformation. And so that's where people are. And so that's where people connected to. And people will never, they'll never accept what God has got, God's power, because they keep looking for God's for him to do it when he says, well, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna let you make these choices. Right. So I think we have to remember that, it ain't that God made these people evil. Now God did make the good and he made the bad. That's Bible. But the thing is, the person made the choice. The person makes the decision. The person, has the opportunity. Now we have prayer where God will intercede for us. God will move on our accords and on our behalf. But the goal we should always remember is that God is in control. And then when things happen, it sounds so simplified. It's so hard, but it's just like, I don't know why this happened, God, but I'm still gonna trust you. When God, my father just passed away last month, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. And thank you. And, and I'm just like, thank you, God. It's just like, as in my mom passed away 20 years ago, real early. She wasn't even 50 yet, and so I'm just saying that, we have to just learn how to just trust God. You know what I mean? Just trust God, just serve God. And I think that'll help us in the reality of understanding what's bad, right and wrong. And then that will help us as leaders serve the community. If we just trust God, stop trusting yourself and just recognizing that. So yeah, I hope that answered that.
Deny yourself.
Okay. Deny yourself. Yeah,
deny yourself.
That's my heart all the time. Deny yourself.
But like you said, if it don't feel like God, don't look like God. Right. Most likely it ain't.
Don't act like that.
Yeah, I'm big on that. I say that all the time. Yeah. And then I feel because we could be judging people sometime. I'll be like, I don't know what they say. They was like people, pastor, this preacher said this, that, and the other. And what you think? And I'll be like, what I tell you all the time, because I'm not even gonna judge it. Right. I'm not gonna talk about it. I tell you what I told you all the time. Do it look like God, sound like God, or feel like God? If it don't, then most likely it ain't God. If it's look like a duck, sound like a duck, quack like a duck, most likely it's a duck. So same thing go with what you're hearing in the spiritual realm. Right. If it don't look like God or sound like God, then most likely it's not God. Yeah. I've had people, with their own agendas a lot of times. I remember when I was a little associate minister and associate pastor, and they come and you tell them, well, we usually out of church at this time, and then they just want to keep going and going and going. Now you could say, I'm about to go deep. We're going to have a whole nother podcast. You can say, the Spirit led you. Nah, Doc, you out of order. You out of order. Because the people on the show, the people that run this show for the service told you that we have a time frame. We want to get out. We want to get the people out of here at a certain time. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. So that's a whole nother thing. People just, God is not a God of out of order. God is a God of order. So when you're doing things for God, it's in order. So that's a whole nother word. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
No, thank you guys for having me.
We got to bring you back for part 2 to continue that word.
Yeah, this is the definition of the ministry outside the church, because I felt like we was.
Oh, for sure.
So I appreciate you for coming through.
For sure, anytime, man. I love this. This is amazing.
You're definitely a blessing. I want to say thank you also for keep encouraging our youth. Yeah, man. And hopefully we have you back soon.
No, for sure, for sure. And I want to encourage you, young men. Stay locked in, man. You guys are making an impact, and this is needed. This is needed in our community. This is needed in our church. This is needed. So just keep doing the great work, woman of God. This is an awesome show. And so listen, you got to keep bridging the gap.
Yeah. Yep. All right, y'all. We want to thank y'all for tuning in. We hope y'all got that good word. Hope y'all can take something from that. Those out there watching, please encourage our youth. Keep encouraging our youth. They are the future. They are the now. Shad, Brother Malik, Pastor Anthony, Desiree, Sister Rochelle, I Can't Do Queen. This is Bridging the Gap. We out.